And joining us right now on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line with the latest on so many burning questions, hopefully getting some answers. He's an answer man. He's an information man. His name is Ian Rapoport, back here on the Rich Eisen Show on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line. How you doing, Ian?
What's going on, Rich? How are you?
I'm fine. Update me on Jalen Hurts. What do you know about his thrown shoulder? What do you got for me? Well,
it's a sprained shoulder. It's not worse, which I think is good, but it's a throwing shoulder, so certainly that's something that's a little bit of cause for concern. I know that he said there's a chance he starts. I know that the Eagles have not ruled him out. Just based on where it all seems to be heading, it feels like he will probably miss this start. We'll see, but that's what it feels like, which means, Gardner Minshew, who's probably certainly one of the top 5 backups in the NFL should be, probably could start someplace, definitely this time of year. Excuse me. He might end up being the starter, and, I think if you're the Eagles, it gets interesting from there. Let's say somehow the Eagles win. They lock up the number 1 seed. They lock up a bye. Well, then, does it make sense to play Jalen Hurts for the rest of the year? Does it make sense, just rest him, get ready for the playoffs where you have nothing to gain in the regular season anyway?
Right. But he may play anyway. And that's the thing I don't understand. He may play. He may just miss the 1 week, and there's no timetable for his return, whether it's this week or beyond, which means it could be more serious than believed. I don't think I'm alarmist in saying that, Ian. What do we know?
If that's the case, let's say it is a multi-week injury. Well, you have, really 4 weeks from now. I mean, you have this week plus 2 more, plus if they have the bye, which I think they just win, one more game. If they win this week, they get the bye, and if they don't, then there's some other stuff. But a bye is certainly possible, I would say, less likely. Then you have 4 weeks. So it doesn't feel to me like it's more than that. So either way, short-term and long-term this year, I think the Eagles are going to be absolutely fine, despite a somewhat scary injury to maybe their most important player.
So is this a game time? This is like 90 minutes before they're doing that? That's a real game time decision? What do you think? Against Dallas?
No, I think we'll probably know. I mean, if we get to Friday and Jalen Hurts hasn't played, I think he hasn't practiced. I think the jig will probably be up. I don't think this will be one where we'll see is he going to warm up? Is he not? I mean, there's all sorts of competitive balance stuff, and we'll see. But this doesn't feel like a big circus involving the starting quarterback.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. All right, so let's jump into some other quarterback scenarios. I guess if we're talking Philadelphia Eagles and their MVP quarterback goes down late in the season and they're, just pretty much ready to wrap up the bye anyway, and we're talking about shades of 2017, that means Nick Foles has got to start. And lo and behold, he's going to start Monday night. Jeff Saturday announced Nick Foles is starting on Monday Night Football. Where in the world did this one come from? What is happening in Indianapolis, Ian?
Well, not a lot of good things, it seems, honestly. And I'm no football expert. Well, I guess some might say I am. It's not good. It's not good. And the fact that they're going to their third quarterback, the fact that this is a team that, lost their coach, benched their starting quarterback, is now in their third quarterback, just gave up, probably the worst loss in NFL regular season history. I'm not sure there's a lot of positives, just being completely honest. And maybe Nick Foles leads into a win or somehow, some way. I don't know. Is it going to be part of their future? Seems doubtful. So then it's like, why would you do this? And the answer is, I have no idea. But, I think for Foles it's a cool opportunity, but short-term for the Colts, long-term for the Colts, I'm not sure I see the answer here.
Right. I mean, I guess why not? You got to throw everything out after you give up 33 points in the fourth quarter of one loss and then come back from a bye and then lose after scoring the first 33 points of that game too. But you blame the quarterback? And I guess that there's no injury, best you can tell. There's just we got to try something else, and so we make the most, I guess, jarring change of them all.
Yeah, I don't know of an injury. That would be a surprise. And I think, the real question to me is, why would you not have Sam Ehlinger start? Foles is, is he going to be the backup next year with a new coach and a new system? my guess, and Frank Reich obviously gone, my guess is probably not. Is Sam Ehlinger? I don't know. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. He's shown some flashes, some not great play. Wouldn't it be worth finding out if Sam Ehlinger is a part of your future, if he is a backup? Like, when else would you want to do it except for now, except they're going with a 30-something Nick Foles without a ton there for the future? Certainly some questions, I would say questions.
Wow. Okay. Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. Next one for you, Lamar Jackson. I saw the Ravens with my own two eyes and called the game with my own voice.
Biggest game of the weekend?
I saw it right in the middle of two classics. I had that middle sandwich. And man, do they need him. And now Devin Duvernay is out. Their receivers haven't caught a touchdown pass since week 3. And they got Sammy Watkins back. So they need Lamar. I mean, in the worst way. What's the scoop with him right now?
They need Lamar. And, this was the week, based on the people I've spoken with, that the Ravens expected Lamar back. I mean, it's 1 to 3 week injury. It's a PCL, which, sometimes can take a little longer than maybe some other injuries. But, they thought he would be back. And we'll see today. Maybe he's back at practice today. If they've had practice, they have not seen it. But otherwise, I think this would be a little surprising. Lamar had an ankle injury last year, did not end up returning from it. And, from this one, maybe a little slower than they anticipated. There's nothing wrong here. It's just, they need him badly. He is, it's funny. It's like his value is going up as he doesn't play. On the other hand, they really would just like him to play and just be awesome again. So we'll see when that happens. I think the Ravens are going to be okay, but certainly you'd like to see Lamar Jackson out there.
Well, because Calais Campbell and Marcus Peters are out too, right? They're not coming back either, it seems, for the moment.
Yeah, I think those guys, that's probably 2 week injuries, which, you get to this time of year, and the only injuries are they back for the playoffs or not? So if those are 2 week injuries and there's not much to play for, we may see them again in the playoffs, and that's it.
So it's like, let's see if Lamar practices today, because, again, today is like a Thursday for a regular season week, because the Ravens, pretty much everybody but, I guess, let me get the number right, 10 teams play on Saturday this week. And so this is it. I mean, this is rubber meeting the road. And in all honesty, though, I mean, value for down the line, that's down the line. They need him back now. I mean, that team had base, and Dobbins had a rest day yesterday. He looked good. And he said he's going to get his burst back, and he could be the answer. But Lamar, they got to have him. They got to get him.
Yeah, they got to get him, and they got to win. But then they also need to win in the playoffs. So if it's just strategic, he's almost ready, we'll just rest him. That's fine. It's all fine. I mean, I think the Ravens are going to be in the playoffs regardless. You just want to make sure that there's nothing. And John Harbaugh wears his sort of emotion/thoughts on his sleeve. He does not seem exactly thrilled with where the state of injuries are in his team. Said right at the start, I'm not talking about it. That was not a great sign, because there's a reason for him not to talk about it, apparently. So we'll see if he practices today. That will be very telling as far as whether or not Lamar will be back.
Ian Rapoport, my colleague from the NFL Network, NFL Media Group, kind enough to call in here on a very busy Wednesday on the Rich Eisen Show here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line. Let's talk about the Titans. How significant is Ryan Tannehill's injury for a team that is suddenly in a free fall, and the object that's getting more and more closer, and maybe than they even appear, is Jacksonville? What do you got for me on Tannehill's injury and Malik Willis starting for the Titans here?
Yeah, I mean, it feels to me like Ryan Tannehill is a severe long shot to play this week. Was in a lot of pain, came back somehow, some way, looked, I guess, okay, but he's dealing with injuries to both of his ankles this season. He is tough as anything. But as bad as that looked, the fact that he was able to come back, you sort of knew, like, all right, like, this is something that's real. So I think there's a very real chance we see Malik Willis start this weekend, and then, we'll see after that. It's the time of year when the only kind of injuries are, we'll see you in the playoffs or not. So if the Titans lose this week, does it make sense to bring Ryan Tannehill back on 2 bad ankles with a slim chance of hanging on? maybe it does, but we'll see if he's able to do that.
Ian Rapoport here on the Rich Eisen Show. Okay, Ian, what can you tell me about the Jets quarterback situation? And I know Mike White, and I'm not talking about injuries. I'm just talking about the way that they're evaluating Zach Wilson, the offense that's being run, the locker room when he's in there, and the body language on the field when he's throwing to them, and Mike White having the exact opposite feeling to it, and what this means for the short term and the future. Like, open your reporter notebook on the quarterback situation best that you can for me, for the Jets, please.
Look, guys like Mike White, I mean, that's, you hit on it. It's pretty clear. When he he's the guy who kind of gives people a lift. Now, does it matter on the football field? I would argue it does. If you like the guy who's throwing to you, does it help you finish one more route a game? Like, I don't know how it manifests itself on the field, but it's not nothing. Guys like Mike White. Now, Mike White is not as talented, quote unquote, as Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson can make a lot of throws, and he was not bad last week. Like, I know he's carrying some baggage, and a lot of the receivers have been frustrated all season about the way he's played, and all of that is true. But actually, on the field last week, if you knew nothing, you would say, you know what? There might be something there. Maybe there is a little bit there. Throws at the end when you got to have it, game on the line. Like, there was some stuff there that I think was okay. So he's going to start Thursday, and I think if he has another, sort of promising performance, you may see him again. Excuse me. If not, then I think if Mike White is cleared, you'll probably see him. Best case scenario for the Jets. Absolute best case. Zach Wilson goes out and balls, and you just keep giving him starts till the year end.
Yeah, of course. And that he merits it, and that he does take and
right, and that's worth it.
And that his stat line of 300 yards and 2 touchdowns does merit. Does yield a win, and also a sense that he has grasped whatever the reset required him to grasp, and that maybe the coaching staff is willing to let him out of the pocket instead of just saying stand in there and become more of a quarterback. It just seems like it just seems to be off. It really does, and that's why I'm wondering, because the next up for them is they got to go to see. I mean, this is. I mean, New York, man. I mean, he's going to be in front of all the Jets fans, and the guy that every single one of those people in that stadium, and everybody who roots for the Jets outside of that stadium, and that includes me, was rooting for them to keep losing so they could get the other guy that's on the field playing quarterback. And that guy is now ascending, and if he comes in and does what he's been doing to a Jets defense that has been the team's saving grace, then they're gonna let it all out on Zach. That's gonna happen tomorrow night, potentially. Ian.
Yeah, and one of the weird things in our world, and I wish it wasn't the case, but I made my peace with it a long time ago, is there is a increased importance to these standalone national games. It's just the whole country's watching, and sometimes you have casual-ish fans who watch more so than any other time, and everyone reacts more. Everything that happens in these nationally televised standalone games is a little bit bigger. And if it's real bad, it's going to get real loud. On the other hand, maybe it's good. But I will tell you this, like, the way, this was like a really feel-good Jets season, and I think this draft class is going to be real. Breece Hall would have helped.
You
think? I think draft class is going to be really, really good. This has turned, and that's really too bad because there was a lot of promise here at the start.
Last one for you, Ian Rapoport. You're taking a look at the way the draft order is beginning to shake out and who's got top picks and who doesn't, and then who's going to have quarterback decisions, whether you keep who you have or you draft somebody else, and the next couple weeks may have something to do with that decision, obviously, whether you make the playoffs or you don't. Which teams are you circling to take a look at on that front over the next couple weeks with the draft order shaking out, as I mentioned, the way that it looks? Ian.
Well, I mean, start right at the top, right? Start with the Houston Texans. Are they, I would say probably not that thrilled with their quarterback situation this year. We thought Davis Mills was going to be a thing. Seems like Davis Mills is probably a pretty good backup and, worthwhile draft pick, pretty good backup, but not your starter. So do the Texans right off the bat? Do they take one? Chicago, probably not. Now they have a lot of needs, and we'll see what it is, but probably not. Seattle is 3, I think now.
Yes, they are. Now that's the one you're circling, right? Do they sign Geno or they keep him and then
both? I mean, they could franchise tag Geno, they could sign him to a short deal, and draft a quarterback. And because Geno is like a really good guy, I don't think that he would go crazy if they signed him and then took a quarterback. Like, that's fine. Take a quarterback, don't play him for a year, and then we'll see what happens. The Lions, I know everyone assumes they're going to take a quarterback. I'm not so sure about that.
Neither am I. But Goff looks terrific in this, and he looks smooth. His play-action game and these receivers, he's locked in on them. I mean, why would you mess with that? And he's been to a Super Bowl. Honestly, I know people like dumping on him, but he's part of the reason why that they have won 6 or 7. They really have.
I mean, that was a good example of a nationally televised game taking on increased importance. He didn't look good in the Super Bowl, and it kind of went downhill, from there.
Right.
The thing of this, I'm looking at the list, Rich. You have Arizona, who's set, Indy, Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans.
They're
Could all take quarterbacks?
Well, that New Orleans belongs to Philadelphia too. I mean,
right.
Talk about the rich getting richer.
They probably don't need a quarterback.
Right.
They're probably okay. But other than that, be all quarterbacks there.
Exactly. And then comes Vegas at 10. What are you hearing on Brady as we go out the door here for the next couple weeks? For the next 3 weeks.
Biggest decision is, does he want to play? He has, his team has obviously struggled. He's struggled some. He has always promised that when he wasn't good, he would walk away. He's, I will be extremely curious for his own self-reflection. What does he think? Does he think it's this offense, it's this team, or does he think I'm 45 and it's time? Like, I have no idea. I kind of hope he plays because it's fun when he plays. But I'm fascinated by this swimming decision with no one having a more important decision than Tom Brady himself.
Ian, thanks for the time, brother. Thanks very much. Oh, yeah, last one for you. On a scale of 1 to I can't freaking believe it, where do you stand on the Mets owner committing almost $1 billion in free agents over the last 3 weeks? What about that?
It's great. I've earned it. It's been a rough 2 decades, 3 decades, really my whole life.
Yeah.
The Mets have operated like a crappy small market team, despite being in New York, and literally exactly the same as the Yankees. But it's been basically 3 decades. I've suffered through a lot of crap. I've been to a lot of bad games. I watched a lot of Steve Traxel starts.
Steve Traxel's been mentioned.
I deserve it. I woke up today. Now, I knew the Mets were interested. I knew they made a secret run at him.
Yes.
I didn't know. And so, I went to bed last night being like, all right, the press conference is postponed. I'm crazy, right? And then I woke up to 1 million texts, and I'm like, has to be correct. There's nothing else it could be. So, anyway, let's go Mets. I deserve it. I'm very happy.
Yeah, T.J. Jefferson, you're in that boat too, huh?
We deserve it, Rap. We deserve
That's
it.
it.
All right.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
LGM.
Let's go.
Let's go Mets.
LFGM.
MET $. That's how they're spelled right now.
Thank you, Uncle Stevie.
Ian, take care of yourself. I'll see you soon. We'll chat soon.
All right. Look forward to it. Thanks, Rich.
At Rap Sheet for the kids who want to follow him on Twitter. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.